Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Devant's Employer Insights, Careers in AI. This is actually our first Employer Insights of the 2024 year, so I think it's okay for me to say Happy New Year to all of you. Of course, not everyone has the privilege of celebrating New Year in the ways we may be privileged in celebrating that, so I recognize that as well. I wanted to welcome everyone to our conversation today. My name is Zora Lakhani, and I am thrilled to be your moderator today. I know folks are joining us from across the board across Canada, but also internationally, and we're really excited to have you with us today. So just a quick rundown of some of the technical aspects. All participants are muted, and so you should be able to hear us via your computer or device audio. No need to use your video, so you're saved by that today. This session is being recorded and will be shared with all our registrants by email. We encourage you to please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen at any time to ask questions directed to our speakers, and we will be happy to have you join us for future sessions, which are listed under the Events tab on our website at www.devant.ca/all-events. So we're excited to have you join us today, and I'll also share a little bit about me, and you can and we'll just get started. So as I mentioned, I am Zora Lakhani, and I am really excited to be with you this evening for me and moderating this session. Before I introduce our expert panel, as you see on the screen, let me tell you a little bit about myself and about Devant. I work with Devant to assist international students to stay, work, and succeed in this country. And before joining Devant, I worked internationally in Kenya, India, Pakistan, and Tajikistan. And so for several years, I've actually worked with students and newcomers who are preparing to go abroad to study. And so I understand the complexities of the work that this kind of endeavor entails. I understand how brave all of you are for coming to a new place, and can also understand your concerns and your hopes and the aspirations that you may have as well. And so we're really in this together, and we're happy to have you join us at Devant and with this expert panel. And really, this expert panel is being hosted by Devant to support all of you. And so I just wanted to share a little brief history with you, so you know how we got here. Academica Group is our parent company, and they've been around for 20 years, and they started Academica started Devant because they saw the challenges and the opportunities that international students and recent graduates have when they are looking to establish successful careers in Canada. And so Devant's goal is to work entirely to support students and alumni to stay, work, and succeed in Canada. And this word Devant is a French word. And Alex, I hear you're French, so please do correct any pronunciation and definitions if I'm going astray. But the word Devant is a French word, and it quite literally means to be in front of. And so we believe that our services and support will bring you in front of the rest in your journey to stay, work, and succeed in Canada. And as international students, we have seen the commitment, the resilience, and the adaptability you hold within you to be out in front of any challenges and circumstances that you may experience when finding employment, especially during uncertain times and given the economy. So we are excited to have you be with us, and we hope that you will log into your career support portal to jump into your new job search resources, and we can also share more information on how you can connect with your career services to learn more. Great. So I'll just share some quick dates with you, so you can take your phone and take a quick picture of how you can stay connected with us over the coming days this month. Next week, we have our immigration Q&A, and then on the 24th, our live career cafe, and then another cool, interesting event on spotting fake job postings and job scams. So do stay connected, and you can take a picture of this slide so you can stay connected with us in the coming days. Great. So finally, we will be, I'm really excited to actually introduce our panelists. So as I mentioned, I'm Zora Lakhani, I'm your moderator. We have Priya Selvam. Hi, Priya. Priya is the founder and principal consultant at Ankadvise and VP of Program and Strategic Learning at ACMP. Now, we might be using some acronyms, so I'll spell them out a little bit for you now, but definitely feel free to reach out through the Q&A to ask more about what these spaces are. So the ACMP is the Association for Change Management Professionals, Alberta, and I'm sure Priya can speak to that a little bit more. Thanks, Priya, for being here with us. We also have Alex Istrate. Istrate?
Yeah, that's correct.
It didn't sound correct. Alex, please say your name for us, so I'm not making
Istrate, no, Istrate is fine.
Istrate, okay, fantastic.
The Romanian last name, so depending if you pronounce it the Romanian or the French way, depending.
Okay. So learning something new. So Alex is the partner and AI ML advisor at Ankadvise and senior data scientist at Statistics Canada. And so this was a question I had on what these letters meant. And AI, I was like, okay, I know AI, artificial intelligence, but if I may, I would like to ask the participants to put into the chat very quickly, what does ML stand for? Okay, let's see. Am I seeing some messages in the chat? All right. Machine learning. Thank you, Sergey. Machine learning, and Mohammed also knew. So AI and ML advisor Alex can really help us understand some of those aspects and learn more. So I'll start with Priya's intro. Priya, we're really excited to have you actually with us. Priya is here. She has spent decades collaborating with executives and corporate leaders of Fortune 100 companies in healthcare, education, software, technology, IT consulting, retail, financial services, e-commerce, cybersecurity, telecommunication, food and the public health sector, and the public sector. And so all of you, any sector you're trying to get into, we have you covered. Priya, your consulting expertise specializes in organizational change management, value stream optimization, digital transformation, and another acronym I need help with, ESG, program management. So if anyone knows what ESG stands for, they can put it into the chat, and then we'll ask Priya after. So let's see if there's any folks on the chat who know what ESG, program management, stands for. She's an executive member of Association of Change Management Professionals, ACMP, and holds a board position as vice president of ACMP Alberta for Program and Strategic Learning. She's equipped with a degree in computer engineering and master's in operations and project management with a Six Sigma Black Belt certification. Wow, that sounds really cool. I am very curious to learn more about that. And of course, more recognitions. Priya is recognized by the Delta Mu Delta International Honor Society for Business, and is a skilled author, speaker, mentor, and active member in the performing arts community and Women in Leadership Foundation. So fantastic to see that. Is it true, Priya, ESG stands for environmental, social, and government?
Governance, yes.
Governance, okay, yes. So Tisha knew that. Bhupati, Gautam, great job. So Priya, you are among folks who get it. So hopefully that'll give me an easier job to do. Alex, welcome. So excited to have you as well. For the past 18 years, Alex established and expanded multiple small businesses. His expertise primarily lies in the healthcare, technology, and public sectors. He holds dual master's degrees in business administration and data science, which offers a distinctive combination of business acumen and technical proficiency. Alex brings a wealth of knowledge in areas such as supply chain management, research and development, international trade, and production process development. Furthermore, he specializes in leveraging data science, generative artificial intelligence, and machine learning to enable organizations to harness the advantages of the latest technologies and help them maximize their potential through AI adoption. Wow, I'm so excited. And in fact, like some of my colleagues are also here because they're so excited to like hear more from the both of you and learn more about this space. And as Gautam is saying, this is an illustrious board of moderators for sure. Absolutely. We're very lucky to have Priya and Alex here with us today. I will say, so folks, we have some questions that we want to ask our moderators, and I will stop sharing the screen and we can have a dialogue. And again, folks, if you have any questions for our moderators, you can ask them in the Q&A function. And while I've just done an introduction of Priya and Alex, I invite all of you to type into the chat a little bit about yourself, do an introduction. And again, you know, as we build this network of you know, like-minded folks in this sector, using these intros, sharing your LinkedIn profile in the chat is a great way to build a foundation, to build a network, and get to know each other in this space. So I invite all of you to please share your own introductions and also share your LinkedIn profile if you'd like to have folks connect with you in this space. So again, thank you, Alex and Priya. My first question is to really kind of tell us a little bit more about your role and what you love about working in this field and what types of clients you work with. So just kind of getting an understanding of your work and that space. So I'll be sure to put the questions in the chat, and I invite you to take it away, Priya and Alex.
Sure, maybe I can start. So, yeah, as a data scientist at StatCan for now, basically we're dealing with different clients, either internal to StatCan or more generally with different departments in the government. So that can be, for example, the Department of Justice, the Department of Immigration, and so on. So we have, because they need experts in AI in general, they ask us our advice, and we develop many projects for this kind of clients. And so basically our role is from the beginning of the project, trying to discuss with the client, understand their needs, what they actually need to solve, because a lot of clients have a very vague idea of what AI can do. So first you need to really understand the problem, see if actually they need AI or if their problem can be solved in a more simpler way. Because AI is not easy, it takes time, it takes efforts, and not just on our part, but also on the client's part. And that's something sometimes they don't really understand how much effort is involved from their side. So yes, so basically that's one part of it. Then after that, there are different projects where we developed models that can solve the problem of the client. So those can be very classical models like classification or regression models, to more recent developments like generative AI, where you develop models that can understand text, understand audio, and respond to very specific needs that different departments may have. So yeah, that's roughly what I do as a senior data scientist.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. And thanks, Laura. Like, that was a wonderful introduction and a great overview into like what we do and where we come from. So I really appreciate you kind of like diving into the elaborate, giving us like a little bit of background to everyone. And so I do have my own consulting practice, which is Ankadvise, which we have been doing that for a few years. And primarily the organization-wide on the change management, enterprise level change management, focusing on technology transformations. So with a ton of like generative AI, ML models coming up, majority of the clients that we work with are enterprise level organizations like Lululemons and BC Housings and so on and so forth that are looking to kind of adopt a ton of like AI practices into their organizations. So those are the kind of clients that we cater to. So for example, like say the contact center technology, it's not the same how it used to be several years ago. So now we have more on the chatbot side of things. And with the IVR technologies, when you call in, they have an automated kind of natural language processing models to kind of like understand what you already want to place you in the proper queue. So this is all like happening with AI ops behind the scenes. So these are the kind of transformations that we support from an enterprise change management perspective, which is basically the clients that I cater to.
Yeah, that's fantastic and very insightful because, we're seeing, I really liked what you said, Alex. Like, not a lot of folks know what they're looking for when they talk about AI, and it's pretty vague, and how the questions you ask, to your clients, Priya and Alex, like the questions you ask will then help you serve them better through this technology. So I really appreciate that piece. Maybe like now that we have a better understanding of what you both work on, wanted to ask what academic qualifications and skills are essential to break into this field, and what do recruiters look for in an ideal candidate? I think that's something that, probably varies across the board depending on the organization, but really curious to hear your thoughts.
Usually people are looking at candidates that have either a master's or a PhD in the quantitative field. So that can be data science, computer science, statistics, business intelligence, mathematics. That was the more classical profile that company look at. But things change quickly, and somebody that has a lot of hands-on experience on AI projects may be able to be recruited because of all the experience that they have on actual projects. Having knowledge in Python is essentials for AI projects. Like most of the project that we do now use Python, so that's something that people need to master. Overall, having a good, you may not need to have a master's in mathematics or statistics, but you need to have a good background on it. Being able to have a rigorous approach to it, to the process and the models, because a lot of people see generative AI, seem intrigued by it, see that it might be the future and want to try it. It's pretty easy, you follow a few tutorials online and you think you understand it. However, if you don't have a good background in science and be able to follow a very rigorous process, you might not understand what are the limits of those models and how to appreciate and assess the quality of the outputs and have more of a more critical eye on what the limits are. So yeah, most of the companies are looking at people that have this kind of rigorous background, but you can still go ahead and have a career in AI without, if you have a lot of projects in it and you can demonstrate that you have worked on these kind of things. Myself, my first master's was in business, and I had a career in business before. And then I studied as an international student here in Canada, data science, and because it was a domain that really interested me. And yeah, I could get ahead into this and become a senior data scientist. But yeah, you'll need to have at least a certain rigorous and mathematical background to be able to understand the field and be more than just applying tutorials that we see online.
Wonderful. And thanks, Alex. I would like to bring on another perspective from like a business standpoint to also kind of like encourage, because I come from like a technical background and chose to kind of like take the business route. So it is something that I would highly encourage if somebody is genuinely interested in the more artificial intelligence, machine learning from like a product management standpoint, from a business analysis standpoint, to kind of get themselves more familiarize with, like, I think Gautam mentioned that, he has ERP expertise. So getting into more the functional areas, also another route to go about it. And from an academic qualification standpoint, to kind of like get a couple of certifications under the belt to show that, like, you're aware of the industry standards, the industry best practices, so on and so forth. But also another route to go about it is from like a BA, PM, or a functional lead for a particular tool, kind of just another route.
Thank you, Priya. I'm really curious, like, about the way in which I think folks kind of penetrate the system of getting through. And I think, like, hearing the two perspectives is really, I think, refreshing, but also creates options and different pathways that folks can kind of look into. So given, this, what is the current and future of work? And in this space, we're often talking about the future of work and what that might look like in the different sectors, but within the AI sector, what does that look like? What does the current and future of work look like? And is there a typical career path for students looking to break into this career? And I know that based on what the two of you have mentioned, Alex, like, I really appreciate you talking about the classical way, and now, like, how things have shifted and how they, like, inevitably will be continuing to shift. Curious about your thoughts on this question.
Yeah, definitely. So the classical way to do data science or to do AI was working hard with your client to collect data first. Data was the basis of everything. Then working on it to making it usable, like cleaning the data, making sure the quality was good, and then choosing models, training the models on the data, finding the best hyperparameters, evaluating it, testing it. So it was a very long process that required a lot of time from both the client and the data scientists that were working on our project. So that was the classical way. And nowadays with generative AI, it changes a lot of things. So it makes projects that were not possible because they would cost too much to acquire the data, become possible, because now you don't need all this data. You don't need to train a model from scratch. You can just use a model like the ChatGPT models or some other open source models, and just ask it to answer a question or to label a question. And you don't need to create a classification model from scratch. You can just rely on that one. And then the problem is more about prompt engineering than actually training a model. So it requires very different data skills than the ones that classical data scientists may have had in the past. So those skills, not all classical data scientists have those skills for prompt engineering, because it requires a lot of continuous training and learning continuously what are the latest models, what are the latest trends in prompt engineering, and latest developments. So that's a lot of work, and that's a big part of the job that we have. If you want to be relevant, you have to be continuously learning. So newcomers in the field actually have a legs up on people that have been on this for 5 or 10 years, because they can start learning the newest techniques, and then they are the same level as somebody that has been here for 10 years and is maybe not aware of the latest ones. So as a future of work, so yes, the classical way of doing things may still be relevant in very specific domains. If you do financial forecasting, if you do something very where numbers really matter a lot, then the classical way is still very relevant. However, a lot of projects that rely on more of interpreting text, of understanding audio, understanding images, then we need more of people that are able to do prompt engineering. So in those domains, in these specific tasks, then somebody that is new, that is fresher, has a lot of opportunities if they are willing to learn the newest techniques and be up to date. And as a typical career path, so I think usually people start after finishing their studies, start with an internship. That's how I did it. So that's why I started with StatScan as an internship, and then it evolved further on as a data scientist and then a senior. So it's perfectly doable, even if you don't have a big AI background before. You need to be aware of the latest trends and still be learning continuously. That's a big part of the job in AI nowadays.
Yeah, and I appreciate Priya, sorry, just wanted to say, and I appreciate you mentioning like where you actually got started, because oftentimes we're expecting that, you know, okay, I should be able to make this amount of money in this role right after I graduate, but definitely kind of creating those practical realities of, okay, I also like I started with an internship, and then, you know, like demonstrating my abilities and learning really goes far. I appreciate the honesty there. Thank you, Alex. Sorry, Priya.
I was actually going to echo what Alex just mentioned, right? Like when it comes to like anything with AI related career path, I think things are changing so fast at such a rate that it's not set in stone at the moment. So if we have transferable skills, I think that can be applied to more of a generative AI as long as we have a solid foundation on what we're transferring from. So I came from an engineering background, did product, but transitioned more into like focusing more on the AI ops side of things, since it is more transferable. So that is something also to consider. What kind of transferable skills can you market yourself to the recruiters?
I love that. I really appreciate that. And I'm actually typing it into the chat. Like, what kind of transferable skills do I have? Like, reflecting on that is important. Absolutely. Okay. Sorry, I like type and talk at the same time, and then I slow down. So my apologies, everyone. I see there are some questions that are coming into the chat, but I encourage everyone to put it into the Q&A function so that we can be sure to answer them as best we can. So another more broader question, like what are the key trends you all see emerging in emerging areas that, you know, students should be aware of and prepare for? So like, what are some of these aspects that perhaps, you know, based on your experience, folks on the call can benefit from?
There are a few trends out there. Generative AI, of course, is a big one. So everybody has heard about ChatGPT, but on top of it, there are thousands of open source models out there, and new companies that are starting every day trying different products. Not of all of them are as good as the GPT-4 models that are there, but on very specific tasks, they can be as good or even better. So sometimes, you know, a company wants to solve a very specific problem, and instead of using a GPT model that is 10 times, 20 times more expensive, they might as well use an open source model that is still generative AI, but for that very specific task, if it's fine-tuned by good data scientists, can actually do the better job 10 times cheaper. So generative AI is a big one, and it needs a lot. People need to be aware of all the different developments, all different papers, and all of the different models that are out there, and that can help them do the job. And so that's a big one. The impact that AI will have on coding is another one. So there is nothing wrong, in my opinion, by using something like Copilot to get ahead, because these models, something like Copilot, that is a coding assistant, can help you code much faster, produce results much faster, and but you still need to be able to understand the output and to debug it. Because if you just copy paste blindly, then you're gonna very quickly get into some big trouble. However, if instead of spending hours of trying to find the best way to display a graph in Matplotlib, if you just get it in a few seconds, that you don't lose anything by, you just gain time, and it's not it's just for me it's a no-brainer. If you can use it, try to use it, but still you need to be able to understand what it's outputting. And finally, I have two other trends that come to mind. The first one would be MLOps. So generative AI for the past 2 or 3 years since it started was very much a trial and error thing. And more now that companies see the benefit in it, what they want to put that into production. And then you need to have something more rigorous, so having MLOps into production, something like version control, CI/CD deployment, and so on. Because in the past you'll have data scientists or AI engineers just writing prompts and then not keeping track of it, not keeping track of the results, and you'll end up with 20 different models and not really being able to compare them. So you need to have a more rigorous the use of AI, and that is with MLOps. So you have a lot of different libraries that do this, so something like MLflow, for example, but it's also integrated into something like Azure or Google or AWS. So, but that is something that is growing, and more companies require that now in their AI projects. And talking about that, cloud skills are becoming more and more important. So if in the past data scientists could just develop their model on their laptop and that would be it, nowadays that's not enough. The models are becoming so big that everything now is developed using something like Azure ML or on the Google Vertex or AWS. So you need to have some understanding of the different cloud platforms, the different tools, have at least one that you can get maybe a certification in it, having a better mastery in at least one platform. So because companies are going to be like wanting somebody that not only knows the theory about the model, knows how to develop one locally, but also how to put that into production.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was a question in the chat about like a law student to kind of like see how they can implement AI within that sector. Something I don't know if probably Alex can speak to it a little bit more, is I'm seeing a lot of like AI ethics as a primary topic, and like the laws around it are still constantly evolving. And I think like everyone are kind of trying to figure out how to even or what kinds of laws would apply. So I think AI ethics is a huge topic. And from a trend standpoint, I'm also seeing a lot of requirements for AI ML testers. So since everything is kind of like being fed at a large scale with all the large data sets and models, I think traditional QAs are evolving more into like AI testers. So I'm seeing a lot of requirements for that as well come up. I don't know if Alex, you had anything to chime into that.
On the law side, AI can be quite scary because law is a lot about reading cases, looking into archives and so on. And AI now can do that very quickly. So it can be scary for a lot of people in law because they may, I mean, they will still need you still need to have experts and lawyers and so on, but maybe you may need less of those. However, it also creates opportunities because law firms are going to need AI systems that are able to read cases, to maybe review. I mean, I'm not a law expert at all, but to review uh, contracts and so on. So, but then you'll need also law experts to be able to, like Priya said, test the systems and assess them and so on. So I think there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of sectors for AI. So it may not seem straightforward right now, but I'm sure there are ways to find a niche, and that can be very, very lucrative and can be actually a great career. Because AI, I see it as being in every sector out there. So it's going to be in law, it's going to be in health, it's going to be in a lot of different sectors, not just in technology. So if you know some AI, you'll get ahead of a lot of people that don't know it at all. So you can still stay in law, but if you're aware of the different models, of the different trend, the different tools, then you can be ahead of a lot of people, and that brings value to your company and bring value to your firm.
Absolutely. And I think you were spot on about that, Alex, but I'm seeing a lot of people requiring AI expertise in the healthcare industry as well. So that is another industry that is still in the preliminary kind of stages about adopting AI as a practice within their organizations. So I'm seeing a lot of requirements come up for healthcare AIs.
Thank you. And I was just thinking also about the AI ethics and law, and I wasn't considering what that meant in the sector of, like, in the legal sector, but rather I was thinking about AI ethics and legalities of using AI, or how it's used, or in the data that's used, and what kind of, like, what it produces, and how that sometimes may have legal uncertainties. So even I was also thinking about it at a different level too. So curious, just going off on this tangent, like, curious on your thoughts on that, Priya.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of every single enterprise has their own legal team. So I think corporate law, there's a huge push for them to understand how and where they can actually use AI within the enterprise. So there are areas where it's a strict no, but when it comes to, like, say, contract negotiations, or when it comes to technology implementations, or being able to use that technology for AI, but not from, like, feeding sensitive information into it. So there are different ways in which they can use AI within an enterprise. So the legal team that sits within the corporation has a large pull towards understanding corporate law as well as ethical uses of AI in different departments and such.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just thinking along that line too. Okay, so as we're kind of understanding what the current and future of work may look like in the sector, could you describe a little bit of, like, what your day-to-day responsibilities and challenges are as AI professionals? I mean, hopefully not any legal ones, but
the legal part is, and the ethics part is a big part of it. So we always have to have this in mind, and we are very careful of what kind of data we use. We are always very careful of what the model is going to be used for. So if it's ever going to be on for taking a decision, we always want to have a human in the loop. At least every time that AI is used in the government, we never let it to take any decision by itself. So it's always going to be, you're always going to have a human in the loop. It's more, AI is seen more of a way to improve the performance and have a faster service and so on. But so yeah, the ethics part is very important, and it's something that we always have in mind, and we always have an ethics review at the end of each project. So it's very important for us, at least in the government, and in a lot of corporate is also very important. You don't want to have legal issues. And as for the day-to-day responsibilities, so as I may have mentioned it before, handling the client and managing the expectations and the limit and explaining the limits of AI is a very big part of it. Because they may not understand exactly what they can do with AI, and sometimes they're not aware of possibilities. Sometimes they think AI is magic and it can answer any question. So that is a very big part of the job. And then, of course, all the project development and developing the models, developing the prompt, and so on. But yes, sometimes AI is not necessary, and you need to be able to understand the bigger picture to guide the clients to choose the best way to solve the problem, and they will be, hopefully, the clients will be happy with having to spend less money and finding a faster solution, and they will ask for your services again. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but
And I think Alex pretty much covered most of it. And I think the one thing that I can add is to not take a hammer to a nail approach, like, not to tackle every single problem and try to enforce it with, like, oh, an AI can solve this, and having an elaborate solution of like a machine learning model can solve it. So sometimes the solution could be very simple. So that's why I think, to reiterate Alka's point, it's very important to understand what is the problem that you're trying to solve. And the AI is just another tool to solve it. So I think it's important to understand what is the value that you're trying to build at the end of the tunnel. So not to try to focus everything on AI, but to understand the problem is going to be putting you apart from the rest of the crew out there.
I really love that. That AI is not the solution, it's just one tool that can help you find a solution more effectively and efficiently, and then create, you know, the broader solution that may be there. It's just one tool and one piece of that puzzle, but it helps us get there faster, maybe, and more effectively, and will hopefully help, like Alex, you mentioned, like save our client some time and resources in that process. So really appreciate saying that, because it also helps the folks on the call like recognize, in terms of not just their hard skills, but like these soft human skills, to understand, how do you listen to your client? How do you understand their problem? How do you then communicate with them about your understanding of the problem and the bigger picture, so that you're able to kind of piece together these tools that would support them in finding their solution? Because, like, again, like you all mentioned, oftentimes clients don't really know what the AI can do for them. And either it's like either they don't know the extent of what it can do for them, or expect that it will do everything for them. And so kind of being that expectations manager in a way is a huge aspect of this role, it seems, from a day-to-day perspective. But again, that's my opinion. And as a
100%.
client, I imagine that's what I would also be looking for, because really I would come in just saying, okay, like I have this issue, like fix it, and assuming that it will just be fixed in one particular way is not really how it may work. So the purpose of me saying this is, when folks are applying to jobs or talking about their experiences with potential employers, either via informal conversations or via interviews, to talk about the fact that you have these skills of like listening empathetically to understand the broader picture and understand the problem, and how you communicate with clients. Just my 2 cents.
No, 100%. You're spot on about it. And I think it's very, very critical. Every time you go to interview, it's definitely a two-way street. Like, you can ask them questions as well. So I would encourage one of the questions to be, what is it that you're trying to solve by hiring this particular position? Like, what is the challenge at hand? What is the problem that you're trying to solve? To understand, that gives the recruiters a better understanding about oh, this person actually wants to understand why we are filling this position. So it sets them at advantage of understanding where they're coming from.
Priya, is that the engineering background also
Yes.
playing a huge role? Right, because when I've worked with a lot of students and a lot of colleagues, and those I remember so distinctively, like when speaking to some of my students and they were talking to me about exploring engineering as a profession. I think one of the things we discovered as in collaboration, what we discovered is, what does it mean to be an engineer? And really it's about problem solving, and not just solving all the problems, but just understanding the problems and then trying to find solutions. And so I think that your communication about it is really reminding me of your engineering background as well. So it's really nice to hear. So on that note, talking about students, what advice do you have? And I know, Priya, you've already mentioned ask a question, ask this particular question. What is the question you're trying to, or what is the problem that you all are facing and perhaps wanting to solve through the hiring of this role? I think that's a fantastic question, and I think everyone should be taking note of that. But beyond that, and perhaps adding to that, what advice do you have for students looking to gain practical experience in AI while they're still in school? And I think there's a lot of potential there. So curious to hear your thoughts.
I would say do as many practical projects as you can find. So I found that there was a very big gap between what I've seen in school and during the masters and the practice, what actually happens in companies. So I mean, the school, the curriculum in schools is usually 4 or 5 years behind what is the state of the art. So especially in AI. So you really want to do as much as practical projects as you can. So this can be things like doing hackathons or doing Kaggle competitions or trying to help nonprofits. So there are many data for good initiatives that you can find, and if you help an NGO, you're gonna also you'll be satisfied because you helped somebody, a good cause, and you also will gain some experience. So yeah, try to do as many projects, hands-on projects as you can, because just lectures and just the different cases you can see, the different exercises you can do in class are not gonna be enough if you want to be ready for the work, for the job market. So yeah, as much practice as you can find, and it's for me, at least for me, for the way I learn, I find it the best way to learn is doing as much practical projects as possible.
Absolutely. And I would echo that as well. Oh, sorry, you had a question.
No, Alex, I wanted to ask you, you said doing hackathons, and between hackathons and helping nonprofits through Data for Good, like what was it? There was a second one you had mentioned.
Kaggle competition. So basically, maybe
You'll
I will
have
link
to
it.
spell it.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe,
I will
yes. Send
I
the
will
link
send
in
the
the
link.
chat.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So basically, it's a website where people interested in AI or data science do competitions to try to solve a problem. So you'll have a data set and you'll try to find the best model that solves a particular problem on the data set. And sometimes these competitions have actually cash prizes at the end. So this is a good way to learn, and even if you don't win, it's a good way to see, okay, what kind of models can I use? What kind of how do you in practice, how do you solve this problem and so on? And also because usually they are time based, so you have a few days to solve the issue. You also learn how to manage your time and how to manage a project and so on. So yeah, let me try.
Thank you, Alex, for putting that in the chat. Priya, sorry for cutting you out.
No, go ahead. I was just going to mention that, when I was an international student, this was like almost 12 years ago, I was looking for projects outside of my university. And I was just looking to kind of like gain some practical experiences. And my first project actually came from within the university. So it actually came from my own backyard, which I failed to kind of look into. But there was potential there where they were more open to kind of like having their students to kind of like build a case study on their own university. So to kind of like identify a problem that you can solve or areas that could be improved on AI and ML practices, so on and so forth, to kind of like just test the waters out there. And I think just asking goes a long way to kind of like just find the department head, whoever, to kind of like just say, hey, I have this idea. I see the potential here. Would you be open if I just try to solve this for you? So
I love that, because we're so sometimes focused on the external, and really, this is a great place to start because it's also a safer space. Folks know you. There is a trust already built there. And Priya, speaking of kind of connecting with the environment you already have, like at your university or maybe at your potentially, if you've already graduated, your alumni environment and network, how can students network actually and connect with AI professionals and organizations to kickstart their career in AI? I mean, my number one answer to that is always LinkedIn, but who knows? I don't know what the AI space looks like. Alex and Priya, I leave it to you.
I can probably kickstart this one. I would highly recommend using Meetup and Eventbrite as well. So the potential with LinkedIn is tremendous, when you want to connect with people who are of diverse background, different cities, so on and so forth. However, like with Eventbrite, Meetup kind of opportunities, you get to know people within the same ecosystem that operates within your own city, which has a higher rate of success when you go meet people in person. So I think definitely with everything going remote, it has made things a lot more convenient. But if we want to kind of leave an impression with people, I think meeting them in person and shaking their hand goes a long way. So I would highly recommend going to Eventbrite, meetup kind of environments, and also being more strategic about the people that you connect with. Like what are we looking to kind of gain from them, or like a share of knowledge, or like share of experiences, or like what is it that we're accomplishing with that particular relationship building. So I think relationship building through like events around town and making it more strategic on like where you want to position yourself, I think that definitely goes a long way.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same things, but going back to the academic world, like ask your professors, because they're very often contacted by companies asking them to do projects, asking them to do research on a specific task, and they just don't have time for it. And they may have a few masters or PhD students that have very specific projects, but they may have a backlog of 10, 20 projects that they don't have time to do, or partnerships that company have asked them, and we have this thing, can you help us? So they will be more than happy to share some of those projects and to reduce their backlog. So just talk with your professors, because they may have already a lot of industry contact, a lot of company contacts, a lot of projects. So this also is a very good way to know people in the domain and get also maybe your first internship or your first project in the real world.
Absolutely. That's a great place to start. And thank you, Alex and Priya. And before I go to the Q&A, I just wanted to say, something, Priya, you said, and I'd be remiss if I didn't touch upon it. You said to be strategic about the people you connect with. Like, what do you want to accomplish when you meet these folks and in that meeting? I absolutely agree with you, because it really demonstrates like a sense of preparation, but also, like a goal, and you're being effective and respectful of folks' times. And I will also add, but don't forget about the kindness piece, because sometimes when we go into meetings like, okay, this is what I want to accomplish, and like, or like, this is my goal, like I have these questions for you, and sometimes we lose sight of like how we're approaching that conversation, how our demeanor is. Are we demonstrating kindness? Are we listening? Are we allowing for space that may have the conversation go in a different direction? So kind of being open and respectful and kind really, I think, goes a long way. And I'm sure we can have more conversations about that in the future. But I do want to get through some of the Q&A questions. So thank you, Priya, for bringing that up, because I think it's super important. But also recognizing that, especially in different cultural contexts, like we communicate differently in Canada versus in the US versus, where I used to work in East Africa and in South Asia. So like cultural ways of communicating also play a significant role in how we make those impressions. So definitely something to think about. So I'll go with the first question in the Q&A. Since AI is a pretty big domain, what fields should we focus on? Like, for example, data analytics, prompt engineering. I've recently heard about this. And so this person said that they feel Canadian AI industry is not as advanced compared to the US. And so is it more into using the AI and big data tools rather than developing models? It's a really interesting question.
Would say it's not as advanced for sure. However, everything is moving very quickly. People are seeing the opportunities out there. So companies, and it's a good thing, because if you are starting to getting into AI now, by the time you finish your studies, the field is going to be much bigger, and people are going to be really looking for people in AI. So yeah, so I think there is a lot, you can focus on one type of data science, data analytics, prompt engineering, or you can still remain in, for example, there was a student that was saying that they are currently in law. Maybe you can focus on, ethics and AI, or AI law and so on, and I'm sure there would be a lot of demand for that. Not everybody has to be a coder, so you can work with AI without being a coder. and there's going to be a lot of need for people that understand it without coding it. You can. So yeah, I think that's my my view on this.
Thanks, Alex. And yeah, and folks, you can definitely look at the questions in the Q&A function. I just asked the first one. Priya, did you have something to add, or can I?
Oh, no, I actually wanted to pick Alex's brain on, like, definitely stick with the domain of your interest, your choice. I think that has definitely gone a long way for me personally. Like, although I come from a computer engineering background, coding was really not my thing. So I was more focused on the architecture side of things. So, definitely focus more on like where your interest and your passion takes you. And if that's going to be like practice of law or like with healthcare industries, so on and so forth, there's always going to be a niche for it. So we just have to kind of find it along the ways. And when it comes to like different focuses, I probably Alex would be a better person to answer this. There's a vast misconception around like, what is ML? What is AI? What is data science? And people kind of like usually mush it all together. So I
Yeah.
think.
In 30
AI
seconds, could you explain the difference between the three?
Yeah, I'll try to. So AI is very generic. It's just how you can make a computer reason like a human, basically. So it's very generic. It's been around since the 1940s, so it's very old. Machine learning is a subset of it. So it's still AI, but is how you do that by not coding how the computer should think, but by using data and make the computer learn by looking at the data. So it's more about that. And data science can be using both, but at solving problems and finding prediction and how you solve an actual issue, with using AI and machine learning, basically.
I think if we could make a sound bite of this 1 hour, I would like really definitely take those 30 seconds, which Alex, you did really well, very clearly, even to someone who's not in the sector, to help me understand the difference between AI, ML and data science. Like, fantastic, Alex. Thank you. And Priya, thank you for asking that question and posing it, because I wouldn't have even thought about that. And I'm sure folks on the call probably did, but we're all learners in our own right. I'll ask one last question and we'll call it a close. Will there be new IT compliance and audit frameworks for AI tools, or do you think it'll also be replaced by generative AI models?
That's a very specific question, but
yeah, I can probably take that one because when it comes to like IT compliance and audit frameworks, definitely there is going to be expansion on it. So like KPMG is one of the massive auditing consulting firms that are out there that are already kind of started looking into like AI specific audit frameworks. So definitely there is going to be IT compliance audit frameworks catered to AI tools and specific. So that also being said, with the AI security, I see the other questions also. There's audit compliance certifications. There's a cybersecurity in certifications that are out there that would absolutely get your foot in the door. But definitely with AI, I think having that kind of baseline of having internal audit in specific or compliance certifications, AI security certifications would definitely help.
Thank you. And Priya, Alex, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so grateful. I've learned so much. I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you participants who've taken the time to invest in yourself today by joining us. And I invite all of you to please be sure to check out our website, devant.ca, and I'll put into the chat our link. And I invite you to please keep the conversation and dialogue started. One of the ways that you can do that is definitely by posting, on LinkedIn about your experience today. And we really, really appreciate all of you being here. So thank you, Priya. Thank you, Alex, for your time, for your insights. I think we've learned a huge deal. So thank you very much. And we really appreciate your time for being with us today. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you, Zora, for accommodating us today and being such a wonderful moderator. Truly appreciate all the participants and sharing this evening with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.